The economic weather is not pleasant.
The GDP number out today has come as something of a shock. It was far worse than expected for Q2, down 0.9%. That is 3 times as bad as predicted by the Reserve Bank just last month.
Economic growth was expected to be down this quarter, but not even the experts thought it would be this bad.
But that hasn't stopped some big deals.
In what's been billed as one of the biggest transactions in New Zealand history, Fonterra has agreed to the sale of key brands such as Anchor and Mainland to French dairy giant Lactalis for $3.8 billion.
We talked to the so-called female blowtorch behind that Fonterra sale.
A bit of a deal junkie. Like, I get energy out of this. I am an ambitious personality. I want to be good.
And ask, is deal-making running hot or cold?
The activity in terms of volume is pretty stable and flat, actually, on last year, but the value is way, way up.
And what's the forecast? Welcome to the MBR podcast. I'm your host, Simon Shepherd. This episode is part of the MBR's annual Dealmakers series, where we report on a series of financial unions, M&A, who's merging, who's acquiring.
I think this starts one of the most exciting phases in Fonterra's history.
One of the biggest and most recent deals, Fonterra's sale of its global consumer brands business. Think
Anchor, tastes like home.
And
Mainland, good things take time.
It was sold to French dairy company Lactalis for up to $4.2 billion. And one of the lead advisors was Jarden investment bank's Silvana Schenone. And it was one of the reasons she was named as most powerful deal maker by the Australian Financial Review.
Oh, I'm ecstatic. I think it's amazing. It's cool. It's fun. I feel like it's a great recognition. It's not an individual recognition. So as you say, Aidan and I are recognised as top one team.
And Aidan, for the listeners, is?
Aidan Allen is our executive chairman based in Australia at Jarden, and we're a strong team together.
So you have to share it with him.
And yeah, I don't mind sharing. We're different people. We have different skills, which is great. But what I was saying is that actually that recognition is the power of that team. So the deals that get mentioned in the power list are the deals that we have done with lots of people in the background. So not everybody's getting the title of deal maker, but a lot of people contributed to it.
Yeah, okay. The commentary said you'd taken a blowtorch to the stereotype of the alpha male deal maker. What do you think of that?
Fun?
It's
a good, look, the comment has got a lot of
attention.
It sparked a lot of thoughts and versions. And I was talking to someone yesterday about it. I don't read it as I hate male.
All right.
I don't read it as there's a problem with alpha male. A lot of people that know me will tell you I'm an alpha female.
Yeah.
I think the title is saying I'm doing things slightly different, and that's good. I'm looking at things from a different perspective. I'm bringing clients into this journey with a different flavor. And I have been in advisory for 25 years, so I'm new to investment banking. I'm not new to doing M&A deals, to do, board advisory, strategic advice.
Yeah, this is your previous practice as a lawyer.
That's right. And so the flavor I'm bringing to investment banking is different, but it is a very strong advisory background.
What motivates you to do the deals?
A bit of a deal junkie. Like, I get energy out of this. I am an ambitious personality. I want to be good. I want to be my best. I want to show others. There's something about probably age and stage that I feel like I want to show others that if you try really hard, and you have to work hard, there's no substitute. I work extremely long hours and extremely intense hours in different ways. But if you do it, if you try hard, if you work hard, you actually get good outcomes. And so showing women in particular that you can do that is really, it pumps me.
So you're a self-confessed deal junkie. You just said that. Okay.
Yep.
So the deals that you've been involved in, was the biggest the Fonterra selling off its global consumer brands?
Yeah, probably the biggest deal I have done, and I would say one of the biggest deals that has ever happened in this part of the world.
Yeah.
An awesome deal also because the complexity of that deal, again, not necessarily something everybody can see. We work on that for more than 6 months.
Yep.
We structure it first, we then executed it, and it was an outcome that was much better than what most people expected, including, research analysts and the market in general. That was through a very good, well-designed process, keeping competitive tension until the very end. And
competitive tension. Okay, interesting.
And also, actually, which I think is really important is, and this may be the sort of comment about not doing everything in a vanilla way, we found value in different bits and pieces. So you find value through... there's an awesome purchase price, but there are also some ancillary agreements that are very important for the remaining co-op for Fonterra. And so looking at all those different angles and different perspectives is what ultimately is good for the client.
Okay. The mainland sale may have been a huge deal, but was it the biggest?
Well, it's not really surprising that Xero's acquisition of Melio for $3 billion US, about just over 5 billion New Zealand dollars, was our biggest deal this year.
NBR chief reporter Will Mace has been overseeing the Dealmakers series.
Obviously, Xero is listed in Australia, but proudly a New Zealand company, and we'll definitely claim it.
Okay.
It's the in terms of a New Zealand company buying an overseas company, I'm pretty sure this is the biggest there's ever been.
You're pretty sure?
I'm pretty sure.
Pretty sure.
We need to check the tape, and I'm sure some of the listeners will call in and say you're wrong on that. But I don't think we've ever seen a New Zealand company do a deal of this size, multi-billion, and definitely not in the 5 years we've been doing Dealmakers.
Right.
So
okay.
it's a fantastic thing to see in this point in the cycle. Obviously, Xero has taken on some US leadership recently, and really a US mindset and trying to hit that US market. So it's bold thinking from the management there, and it'll be interesting to see whether it comes off.
Okay, all right. So what time frame does this series cover, and what are the other notable deals that fall in that period?
Sure. Yeah, Dealmakers, we take the period from the prior July to this July 2025. And we get some data there through from the likes of Dealogic and Refinitiv, which has a little bit of noise in it. So the top deal there was actually Graham Hart's company, Pactive Evergreen.
Right.
It does have an ultimate New Zealand shareholder company, and it's also Graham Hart, who's very, very well known here. But we removed that from our data. It was $6.7 billion US dollars worth.
But it's a US deal, is it?
It is. I feel like it's a US deal.
Yeah.
So we've removed that, and it didn't have any New Zealand advisors on it.
Okay.
And it's just a bit removed, but obviously, massive amount of capital there. So.
Yep. New Zealand centric. What are we talking about?
New Zealand centric. We're talking about Manawa Energy's sale to Contact Energy for $1.9 billion.
Yep.
Renewables is really a hot sector at the moment.
Okay.
So the other one was the next down the list would be Arvida's sale to Stone Peak. Stone Peak being a US investment fund, Arvida being a retirement village operator. So that happened actually about a year ago, but it falls into that time frame of ours, and for $1.2 billion. So that was a massive one, and obviously a listed company Arvida was. So that was taken down from the NZX, is now a private company.
Lost company there off the NZX. Okay.
Yep. There's another one. If we skip a few down the list, but really interesting to see a startup called Tradeify. Sold to Access Group during the year for around $240 million, we think. Fantastic for a relatively young company to see a valuation like that, and really a boost to venture capital funders who were in that company.
And what does Tradeify do?
Tradeify is basically a logistical app for tradies, so it's a great name for it.
It works, yes.
Yeah, to help them in their work process, and help them from doing it basically on paper or with calendars. It's all done through an app. So it was actually started by a tradie here in New Zealand, and we've been trying to get an interview with him over the year, but he doesn't like to do media. So, but
that's a typical tradie for you.
I know, but he's not a typical tradie because he just got paid out a hell of a lot of money.
He did. All right. So that's the notable deals from this series. How does it compare to previous series? Is the amount up? Are the deals up? Is the activity down?
Well, the activity in terms of volume is pretty stable and flat actually on last year, but the value is way up, according to Refinitiv and Dealogic, which is kind of the most the best sources of data we have. So last year there was a 13.8 million average value per deal.
Okay.
This year that's 106 million.
That's a big increase
per deal, and that's from Dealogic's figures.
Yep.
Refinitiv's fairly similar. Last year was 9.7 million average. This year is 86 million average, and those are all US dollar figures. They do include that Pactive Evergreen deal that I mentioned before of Graham Hart's.
So could that skew it upwards?
It could, but only by 6.7 billion or so, which isn't much when you think about it. But we've still got Xero in there with 3 billion, which is, as I said, sort of the largest deal we've
and those
seen
other $1 billion deals you've been talking about.
Exactly.
Well.
So I think even stripping out Graham Hart's deal, it's still sort of record numbers in terms of average deal.
Let's just pause the deals for a moment to remind you that if you enjoy the NBR podcast, Independent Business Journalism, please give us a follow. Now, it's back to the billions. As well as the investment bankers doing deals, the ecosystem includes lawyers who specialise in mergers and acquisitions. Let's talk about the last 12 months. How would you describe the last 12 months?
Well, as a firm, we maintained some fantastic momentum through the last 3 years.
Oh, okay.
When everyone's been sort of patchy and finding it a bit tricky.
Reuben Woods is from DLA Piper's New Zealand office.
I'd say in the last 12 months, maybe the last 9 months, it's been patchier than it was prior to that for us.
You're a big company, or it's a big global company.
Huge global law firm, yeah.
That's right, okay. And so does that give you an advantage in terms of feeding into these deals from overseas leads? Yeah,
when the domestic market gets quiet, we can sometimes be somewhat immune from it. Also, the types of domestic clients that we have maintained a fair bit of activity as well. So I think we've been, good management and also lucky.
What are those trends driving that activity domestically that has helped you sort of have this okay period?
I mean, it's similar themes for a number of years now. There's a huge amount of private capital sitting there needing to be deployed. There's private equity funds that have raised have capital commitments that they're looking for opportunities to deploy. There's pent up pressure on exits where, for example, private equity funds have companies that are sort of due to be rolled over and exited, but for various reasons to do with market conditions, they've probably delayed.
Have they not been deploying because they're afraid of the global uncertainty of Liberation Day? Is that a factor?
I think immediately post Liberation Day, there was things screamed to a halt. There was a huge amount of uncertainty.
Yeah.
But it's amazing how quickly businesses sort of adapt, I guess, and how resilient they are. I think within 3 months or less, it felt like people just got comfortable with the new norm.
The new norm of uncertainty.
Yeah, well, that's right. Yeah. That's right, that macro uncertainty.
Okay. In New Zealand, I mean, I know you're an international firm, but in New Zealand, what are the sectors that actually have been working for you?
Our firm has had a huge amount of activity in energy transition renewables space. There's a huge amount of activity going on there.
Okay.
In fact, that's probably driving, it's got to be 20% of our firm at the moment for a number of years now. Financial services has been busy.
Yep.
There's been a lot of activity there. Tech sector remains buoyant, I would say, and there's a lot of inbound interest out of the US still, and out of Aussie and the UK, but particularly out of the US, I think, looking for assets that they would consider cheap. I mean, there's always opportunities in New Zealand.
Are we always considered cheap?
Well, we are. They can buy a tech company here on a multiple, and then if they wanted to, they could turn around and sell it very promptly into the US at a better multiple. So there's an arbitrage there that they can enjoy.
Yeah.
So I would say those are probably the hottest sectors.
And what's not so hot?
I mean, it's all the stuff you'll know. Construction,
yep.
Retail, hospo.
Yeah.
Those sectors have been doing it very, very tough, I would say.
All right. Here's NBR's Will Mace again. So what other trends have you noticed in the sector?
It won't escape anybody's notice that it's been a pretty difficult time in the economy. So I think a lot of that activity has been coming out of distressed situations.
Okay.
So companies that are going through tough times and either having to sell assets or being forced into administration, liquidation, and being forced to sell assets. And also larger companies that are looking to consolidate in their sector. Maybe they're sort of the well-capitalised one in their sector, and they're buying assets, or they're looking at their own margins. They're keen to divest assets, perhaps non-core assets. The likes of Spark has been doing a lot of that.
Yeah. All right. So when you step back and look at this series, what can we read anything into it? Is it like a bellwether for the economy? What do you think we can look into this series and say this is what it's telling us?
Yeah, I think you hit it there. It is a bellwether for the economy. It's a bit of a chicken and egg scenario. Does M&A activity pick up because of the economy, or does the economy pick up because of M&A activity? And there's so many different aspects and variables to it. But from a journalistic point of view, I love looking at this stuff. A lot of it is often quite opaque and private and confidential. So when we are able to get a view into it and summarise sort of what we've seen in the past year and talk to these people about what's actually going on in their teams in terms of their work rate and the types of deals they're working on, it's really interesting, and I think gives a hint to where value is being seen in the market.
There's also another trend happening within the sector, and that's to do with some Aussie firms eyeing up some New Zealand opportunities, something Reuben Woods from DLA Piper has noticed. Do you see more Aussie firms coming into the New Zealand sort of M&A space and taking the lead on deals here? Are they encroaching on the territory? Is that bad for the local industry?
I've got to be careful with how I approach my answer here, but I would say yes, I have seen more of that.
Yep.
And what's driving it? Well, Aussie's a big, deep economy, but they too have had a bit of a patchy year at times. Not to the extent of New Zealand, I would say. The economy, because it sort of carries more momentum than ours. It seems to recover much quicker.
Yeah.
But I think when it gets a little bit tight over there, the Aussies start looking where they can mine further work. And New Zealand,
mine further work. I love that term. Yeah.
And New Zealand's a comfortable jurisdiction for them. So I have seen more in the last 12 months Aussie firms leading purely NZ deals than I have previously, which is interesting and not a great trend, I'd say, for New Zealand.
Because you want the local industry to be healthy, right?
And it is. It's very healthy. I think that would be an exception rather than a norm. But in the past, the Aussie firms would go to their favourite NZ firm and say, "Hey, I've got an NZ deal. Can you assist? We will do the Aussie elements. You do. If it's a New Zealand governed deal, you do the lion's share."
Right.
Whereas the trend, if it is a trend, it's a thin trend at the moment. But whereas in the last little while, I have seen circumstances where the firms have actually just come in and said, "We're going to do the deal. It's NZ governed, but to hell with you, NZ firm. Can you sort of just assist around the fringes?"
Right. Will that continue? Well, maybe, when you look at what the industry is forecasting. Lots of dry powder out there waiting for a spark.
I'm pretty bullish, actually. I'm quite
bullish.
Optimistic. Yep. I think the interest rates likely to be moving down. OCR moving down further. That private capital that needs to be deployed. It's the exits that need to occur. All of these things. And business can sit on its hands for only so long. I've already seen an uptick in the last month where people are scrambling to Christmas. Literally, I would say in the last week, I've probably had 3 or 4 deals that look like good deals just sort of coming into my inbox.
Yeah.
It's right now that people need to move if they have any hope of signing anything pre-Christmas.
Yep.
And I've seen a big uptick.
I didn't realise there was a Christmas rush for M&A.
There is in New Zealand and in Aussie in some ways, but most deal participants know that New Zealand still really does shut down from 20.
Well, if you've got to make it to the batch, you've got to get a deal signed, right?
Well, that's it.
And someone planning to be part of it all is Jarden's dealmaker, Silvana Schenone.
We have had an absolute knockout of a year, which we're really, really excited about. The team has been flat out. We feel that we are actually the absolute market leader. Our team is absolutely outstanding, all of them in in expertise, in client service. We're a trusted advisor.
So would you say that doesn't reflect the overall level of mergers and acquisitions? You stand out, but how would you assess the rest of the marketplace?
The other way to put it is we have been pretty much in every deal around. So we have taken our lion's share of the market on business. Yeah. People
can't see that, but that's a Cheshire cat smile at the moment. All right. Finally, our economy is still on a go slow, and you mentioned like property is having a tough time, but what are the implications for deal making for the rest of this year and for 2026?
I think there's a lot of money to be deployed. So we expect to see, because people have been sitting tight thinking these are not the times to sell. These are not the times to do something major. And people have been very strict about cost control, etc. So there has been a bit of a retraction of activity in that sense. And I do think, again, as I said before, private equity is going to drive a lot of the activity. I do think the capital markets are going to continue to be busy. Hopefully the recaps are not going to be the majority of the cap raises, but instead they're going to be for growth, which would be great to see. I think the government has to do more. There will be infrastructure activity, whether there is partnerships with private capital. I think there will be more happening. So I expect quite a lot of activity.
Mm-hmm. Will there be enough activity to be the top deal maker again?
Sure, always is. It's up to you, not to others, whether you're the top or not.
And that wraps up this episode of the MBR podcast. Make sure you catch all of the Dealmakers series this week on mbr.co.nz. Any social clips used are listed in the description, and thanks to content producer Tane Turner. For early access to new episodes, subscribe at mbr.co.nz. Up next, are we in an AI bubble? I'm Simon Shepherd. We'll catch you then.